Hello, my name is Robbie Howell. I am the creator of the diceless tabletop role-playing game Enclave.
So tell me about Enclave. How would you describe it in like two sentences?
Enclave is a diceless TTRPG that takes all of the classic squad-based long-form progression structure that you love, and it not only makes it entirely diceless, but also solves these scheduling issues by adapting it to a one-shot format with continuous characters.
How is that facilitated design-wise?
So design-wise, it comes down to world building. All player characters are agents of this organization called the Enclave, at the heart of an infinite world called Manifold. So the world itself is literally infinite. There's no defined pre-existing history or settings or culture or themes. You can bring whatever you want to it. You can have whatever tech level, whatever you would like. And you're going to a different place every time. The one constant is the Enclave, this strange organization at its heart that is kind of omnipresent, but is known to a fraction of a percentage of a decimal point of the population.
I was talking about the game after we played with my wife, and she was like, "Oh, that sounds like Doctor Who. Every week is this vignette into like, this is the cyberpunk episode, and this is the just train robber Old West episode." And I was thinking of using it to run like this is Magic the Gathering essentially, and we are planeswalkers, just like hopping from story to story. And I think it facilitates that really well while maintaining its own sense of identity, which is what I kind of worry about the sort of bring your own vibes
I agree.
games, is that, and like, you know, when I was a kid, it was mostly GURPS or like the genre-esque systems that were like bring your own vibes, like Big Eyes Small Mouth. You know, I'm a weeb, so all the anime games I played the crap out of. It really seems like Enclave has, stylistically, it's got some teeth that are going to pop out in pretty much whatever game you play. How would you describe like the inherent vibes of Enclave?
Since Enclave classes tend to draw from archetypes across all media, all literature, I feel like archetypes often kind of have a nesting point somewhere kind of deeper in the human consciousness. It's Jungian to say, right? But I do kind of believe that. And because of that, it feels, to me at least, to be a game that feels kind of familiar to a lot of people, because it has a lot of these touchstones that they might be familiar with and are kind of nested in the cultural identity of the media that surrounds us. Sorry, that was wildly pretentious, but I do believe it.
What are some of your favorite examples of those touchstones as they are present in Enclave?
The Gunslinger is easy. We all know that.
Yeah, I think I played a Gunslinger, right?
Yeah. Not only is it quite fun to have some more specific grounding for classes that you might not find in other games. For example, in the expansion, we're going to be adding the Vessel class. And the Vessel, the archetype, or like the trope it points to, is when like an evil, powerful entity is sealed inside of a human who's like innocent.
Your Itadori Yujis, your Narutos.
Precisely. And that class not only is wildly popular when I've like teased it on my server,
I want to play it right now.
it's a really fun class. I feel like Enclave kind of uniquely allows it to realize its potential, because it truly is a class that for most of the mission, it is this social pseudo manipulation class, like playing manipulation support. And then it snaps and goes berserk and destroys everything.
Hell yeah.
Not just classes are based in tropes in Enclave. Even a lot of our stats are based in tropes. Like our vitality stat, the one that lets you draw attention, it also has the mechanic that allows you to heal allies through major character moments. And what is more iconic to media than, you know, the anything from the true love's kiss to the holding on, you can do it, fight man, to, you know, Pikachu crying on Ash turned to stone, right?
Yeah, that was Pikachu using a vitality action. Not a lot of people know that.
Precisely that, yeah.
If you could ask someone who's never experienced the game to dip their toes in and do one thing, what would that thing be?
If you are just wanting to get kind of a taste of Enclave, the best thing you can do is join our Discord server or any Discord server that hosts missions. Enclave is very fun to spectate. I've tried to make it as, I guess, consumer first as possible. You know, the core rule set is comparatively quite small and cheap for a TTRPG rule set with as much long form play potential as it has. But also, like for our Discord server, when people join, we'll offer them a loaner. Be like, hey, do you want to try? Like, here, have a free PDF. Try it out. Minimizing barriers to entry is important for me. So I'd say go somewhere that you can be around people playing it. And I think Discord's a great place.
So I'm gonna act like a naysayer here.
Yeah.
Robbie, how is a game without dice going to be fair if we can just make up everything? What is
Absolutely.
Make me believe.
I understand your concern. If you're playing another TTRPG, are you making people roll for every action they take? How about walking? But you don't know that someone can successfully walk from here to there without tripping. I think there's two reasons that people would quickly come to. Maybe there's others I'm not considering. One is that would take a lot of time. I agree. It does. I find that dice rolling really kills momentum in a lot of game sessions. Two, it's because having your character slip and eat shit and fall in the middle of some cool combat doesn't make sense from a storytelling perspective. And the reason you can say that is if you are reading a book and it was a fight scene and a character just goes like, ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba, you'd be
if
like,
that book is called
reading? Super
Smash Brothers Brawl.
Well, yeah, that's why it didn't make sense in that either.
Yeah. Dog shit mechanic.
There is a narrative logic that underpins all actions in games. And when you are rolling a die, you're saying to yourself, okay, there's a bunch of outcomes here that could be cool and interesting. All that a game like Enclave is saying is we don't need the die to make that decision. We are pretty confident that the logic of the story will lead us to the right decision. And if not, we can be convinced one way or another. So we give our players the benefit of the doubt in really uncertain situations, but those are quite rare. Usually the right answer is obvious.
Now, I play pretty tactical games. I play Lancer, even something that I would say is a little more rules light, like Ryutama. A lot of the battle fun that I have in these games is from grind repeat, like how can I make number go up next time, how can I better manage this outcome. But after we played, because I played some other diceless stuff before where it's
fun, but like
essentially
casual,
yeah, it's just like storytelling with some outside guidance and prompts. Because when I think about designing games, especially pen and paper, and that's how I design anything in prototype, I'm like, oh God, every single die roll is like
friction.
Yeah, it's a point of friction between you and the game world, or even you and like understanding the core rules of the game. Like as a card game, I really like Lorcana. It as a game eschews RNG almost entirely. Like you're still shuffling cards. I don't know if you're a TCG head at all, but
I am.
Kaijudo / Duel Masters, where like every card is land. Saying, okay, you can have a resource. It doesn't have to be a big number, right? It doesn't have to be a Yu-Gi-Oh number of just put a bunch of zeros on it for no reason.
8,000.
Yeah, and B, it doesn't have to be replenished at random is something that I am more and more attracted to in games, and that's something that I feel, because like Enclave has resources.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
You don't have a ton that you can spend on small actions because you don't spend them on small actions. Yep. And I think that is one of the game's strengths. So what has guided you towards this number of and fidelity of resources in the game?
I'm going to make something of a bold statement, which is that Enclave is a tactical game. However, it is tactical in a very different way. It's tactical from a storytelling standpoint. So in the same way that if you're reading a fight scene in a book or watching a fight scene in a movie, and you can appreciate the tactics of it, the same too can be said for Enclave. Is it going to give you the same experience as something like Lancer? God, no. And as someone who played a lot of Warhammer growing up, I love games like that. They're extremely fun. But it's tactical in the way that you are trying to approach a problem in an extremely believable way. And the believability is what will determine your success. So the resources are a part of that equation. The two explicit resources we have are stamina for physical actions and essence for magical actions. Now, as in real life, you spend stamina to do physical stuff in the real world. Same to an Enclave, but of course in Enclave, you're under enormous supernatural pressure doing crazy supernatural things, and you're going to put yourself to the end of your rope much easier than you might in the real world. However, Essence is where it gets kind of more interesting. It can be spent in these gigantic bursts. Magic draws a lot from you and has different symptoms when you get low, and it's exciting and fun, and yet again another acting prompt. But it's way easier to tire yourself out magically than physically, because even if you're magically exhausted, you can still go for a big cast, and as such, low stamina is a threat to people, but more because of what other people can do to you. Low essence is a threat because of what you do to yourself by accident, or even on purpose, because you're like, okay, I know I'm gonna fuck myself with this. I'm gonna do it anyways because I'm gonna let my power unleash, and it's big and cool and exciting. So there's this cool dynamic between the kind of passive timer that stamina puts on you to some degree, depending on playstyle, and the more active timer that essence puts on you from a magical playstyle. I'd argue there's another two more very important non-explicit resources. One of them is your health to some degree. We don't have HP, but if you are taking bad wounds, there's many times that you can say, okay, I know I have to take a hit here. I'm going to trade that off kind of consciously in my head. So maybe a better word for it would be vulnerability. I'm going to purposefully incur a problem to facilitate a success. But I'd say the other implicit resource that's really important, and I think is what makes Enclave so tactical, is time. You can only be in one place at a time, and Enclave missions, as you now know, are extremely fast.
Yes.
You're stretched in many directions, and where you are in time, called positioning, right? Your positioning in game is one of those things that as you play more, you start thinking, wow, there are so many places I need to be. How am I going to prioritize that? How am I going to
shit is happening at points A, B, and C.
Your abilities have cooldowns, your abilities have durations, all that is time, but I think time is the most important resource in Enclave.
In terms of encouraging those kinds of games that are fast, where things are happening at points A, B, and C, and positioning puts this tactical pressure on the game, what in Enclave asks the game master to run the game that way, or what tools are at their disposal to facilitate that?
So there's one enormous one, which is the one-shot structure. The fact that every time you play is a self-contained session. There's no travel time. You teleport straight there, then you teleport straight back. The mission we did probably took well under half an hour in world time. In our real world, it was like, I think 2 to 3, something like that.
Yeah, it was like two and a half hours, and a lot of that was me going through character creation. So
because of that structure, it allows us to dump you straight into the middle of a story, right during the tense part. And we do in the book talk a lot, we give a lot of advice about how to structure missions, how to put pressure on your players that's fair and reasonable, how to give them enough information going in that they don't have to ask a ton of clarifying questions and have all this setup time. But those are all just recommendations. The way you approach it is entirely up to you.
I think that it is designed in very good faith. You can assume that people are playing this who A, want to play role-playing games, and B, want to act as their characters in some capacity. And that capacity is like super sliding scale from what it seemed as we played. Oh, yeah. Like, for anyone who's anxious about the role-playing aspect, I think much of the role-playing that I did was just making decisions as my character would, like the actual Bingo. Definition of role-playing. Enclave made it very, very easy to inhabit that headspace. Easier, I think, than... I'm not going to use this to drag other games that are popular right now, but easier than a lot of games that are narrative first. Not exactly to the same end, because it's not striving towards those same ends, but I think the experience that I had felt pretty unique to Enclave. And as someone who plays so many tabletop role-playing games, that's something, because normally I'm like, oh, this is like if this didn't have this mechanic, or like, oh yeah, this is that, but it's roll under. But Enclave really feels pretty singular. Like, it definitely has its cousins narratively and mechanically.
I agree.
Don't think I could turn to another game to get what I got from Enclave, if that makes sense.
That's a wonderful compliment. And just based on my own biased assessment of the market, it's also true. Because, I read a lot of systems. I love looking and seeing what's out there. I have leaned into its strengths based on what I feel like the industry kind of needs. The big one is the scheduling problem. I think scheduling is a massive freaking issue, and it gatekeeps a lot of people out of our hobby. By just saying, yes, Enclave really solves this, and kind of leading with that, it's a way for people to be like, oh, so you're saying if my normal D&D session falls through, I can just play this? Yeah, please, play us on the margins. We're happy to be there. Or have us as your main line. We can do all of it. We are flexible, and we're not trying to muscle out other games.
I would definitely agree that leaning into Enclave's strengths has been, I can tell that what it's good at, it's really really good at, and it's really shed everything else. So thanks
Yeah,
for running that game for me, and thanks for making the time to talk to me about it.
of course, it was a pleasure, and thank you so much for talking about my work. I'm very grateful.
Hell yeah.